Welcome, fellow artists of the world. I am very pleased to have with me today Julian Freeman. And as every artist knows, that every artist is an artist, and every person is an artist. And the interesting is this: Julian is currently exploring video editing and creating art and making movies, and he's just made a delightful 4-minute live-action short film, just around the feeling of Friday. And as I watched it, I was like, damn, this is really good. And then he continues and he talks about, yeah, I had this technicality and I had that technicality, but there is a lightness around it. It's not, and like what struck me in what he said so far is like, I can see the mistakes, but as he's talking about it, it feels like he's looking at it not from a point of suffering, but he looks like this is progress. I now see what I need to do different. And I know as an artist, I'm very critical of my work, and I want it to be better. But I usually get lost in that. I can get very lost in that, just looking for what needs to be improved. And so I invited Julian. So welcome, Julian. Let's discuss this.
No, thank you. No, I'm. First of all, I'm loving being called an artist. It's funny that for maybe 3 or 4 years, I picked up a video camera and I didn't know why, and I called myself a video services person, and I took videos of people and edited them and so on. And then the end of last year, I kind of went, I'm going to start calling myself a filmmaker, and I'm going to start telling stories, and I'm going to start doing it differently. And the good thing about that is that I've, done some of the groundwork. So I was like ready, and the camera came to hand, and that all feels really good. And then I started doing some stuff, and of course the first thing I started doing was to realize that what I'd been shooting was, when you come to edit it, it wasn't good enough, what I was shooting. So I upgraded my editing capability, and the first thing that said to me was, you need to go back now and update your ability to shoot the footage. And so that to me was beautiful, because I then, of course, as you do, it was a great opportunity to go out and get myself a new gadget. I got myself another camera and spent some time getting into that. And then once I started getting that footage, I would go back to the editor, and it was kind of challenging me to do more with the edit, which I also loved. So, that seems to me to be quite a virtuous circle. And I was just showing you before we started this, I've just bought myself a crazy little camera because we're just going to go away. And I just thought, I'm going to buy this camera, and it's not a serious camera, but it does do full HD movie, and so I'm going to see what I can create. It's like, this is an opportunity to create something. And that all seems perfect. That seems like the really good side of being a filmmaker. And then you were talking about the next piece of it, which is that, do you remember is it Edison or somebody who has that saying about, it took 1,000 failures to make a light bulb? And I always used to have some really horrible thinking about that, like, oh my God, is it going to take me 1,000 attempts to get there? But what happens is, what I'm finding is that I just get something done, and then I look back at it and go, oh no, that's not quite right. And I couldn't have seen that without creating what I've just created. And I almost kind of give thanks for that mistake. It's like, I know what to do now with the next one. And it's like, it's so showing me the way to develop what I'm developing. And I love that. I think that's a real... So instead of it being some horrible thinking about, oh no, I've made another mistake, it's like, oh, there's something here. There's some nugget here that I can use for my next piece of film. So it's just kind of keeping me moving forward and learning and growing. And I just find that a really nourishing, if that's the right word, process. I'm really inspired to continue in this area to the point where I go out and buy myself a camera just to see what I can do with it. If it makes me one movie, then it'll be fun.
So I've just been writing like crazy and keeping track of all the things you said. Because here's what I absolutely love, and one of the state of mind things is that we are always living in the feeling of our thinking. And I've seen that a little bit more profound, and it's not the circumstances that make you feel a certain way. And so I was just keeping score. It's like, I hear you say I bought a new camera, and the feeling that I got from you is just like, you're just really enjoying that. It's like really a nice vibe around it. And I know that's not coming from the camera, but you're looking in a certain direction, right? And that points to something. And I think every artist has this excitement about new things, new experiences, new possibilities, or right? And that's why most artists, I think, really enjoy being an artist. And so I keep score, and it's like, you said, like, it doesn't look quite right. And again, the feeling of it is just one of appreciation. And so that doesn't point to the mistake, it points to the quality of your thinking. And you have a really nice experience of that, because you're experiencing your thinking, and your thinking is just looking in the perfect direction. Looking for opportunity, being open to seeing something new, mesmerized by not knowing what's going on. And that's why I invited you, because you said something earlier. It's like you made a mistake, and it shows me the way. And the feeling around it is just of clarity and appreciation and just excitement and I think if any artist would get that, because I know so many artists who and I speak for myself here. It's like I would create something, and I would not be even halfway, and it would be like, oh, in the feeling of, oh God, it's terrible. Oh, look at it, it's horrible. Like, I'm trying to pretend like it's horrible, but it's hard to do that right now. But and it's, yeah.
It brings to mind for me a story. There's a guy that I've known for a long, long time. I don't know him particularly well, but he's an artist, and he lives in Cornwall in England, and he paints in a style, they call it naive, right? So it's kind of like an modern impressionist style. And I've been following him for over 20 years, maybe 25 years. And when I first met him, you went to his house, it wasn't well decorated. It just had stacks of canvases on the floor, and nails on the wall. And you looked around and decided which ones you liked. And he'd put them up on the nails on the wall, and you could see see them in better light. And then you'd say, how much is this one? And he'd measure it, get a tape measure out, and he'd measure it. And he'd sell it by the square inch, right? So if it was a small small painting, it was a small amount of money. And if it was a big one, it was a big amount of money. And I was like, okay. So we bought something from him then. And now, 20 years on, it's valued like 10,000 times more than when we bought it. And yeah, I think if he looked back at that early painting, and if I compare his early paintings with his later ones, we've got one of his later ones too, his style has developed so far on from his original place. But there's something really fresh and really vibrant about the original painting too. And it's just as valid, it's just as valuable now as it was then, but in a different way. So for me, that tells me that, if I just keep picking up the camera and following what I'm doing, then I might in 5 years' time come back to that video that you talked about and go, oh, that was horribly crude. But there'll still be something in it for me. It will be an important step along my journey, and I feel like each step is taking me there to a great, each step is great, but each step is taking me there. It's like I just get a certainty around it that I'm building my own style. I could try and be Ridley Scott, but Ridley Scott isn't me. But I know that I can be me, and I know that that's going to connect with my audience, with the people that want my style of film, and that feels good. If I can really connect with some people, and I'm already starting to, then hey, what else is there to do?
Yeah, I love your point about just the intellectual understanding of this, but I love your point of, like, you wouldn't say that early Van Gogh work it's worth more or less. It's Van Gogh, period.
Right.
And that's what I saw in your video. It's like it's easy to look at it in 100 different ways, right? You could look at it like it's technically crude or not or whatever, and make all kinds of judgments. But on some level, there's something there that shines through it. And I think that's the value of any artist's work, that it's not in the lines, it's in the experience of the work. And there's something there. If you look at a Van Gogh, there's something there, and it's not the lines, but it's the way the whole thing is created, and you see basically the soul of the artist shine through.
And that's really interesting, because when I try and go for something, so many of my attempts recently have ended up on the cutting room floor, like not good enough. But each one of those has learnings in it. So even though they've ended up on the cutting room floor, they've kind of helped me with the next one. And then finally I got to this, and I think the reason why they weren't good enough was because I was trying for something. I thought there was something I had to achieve with my filmmaking, rather than what happened was I was introduced to something called freestyling by a friend of mine. It was just like a crazy afternoon, and we recorded something, and that's a kind of learning in itself, because the first thing you do is you go, oh my God, do I sound like that? When you listen back to it. But it was a bit of fun, and then I just had this idea to take that music and use it as the inspiration, and I started picking pieces off my cutting room floor, basically out of my hard drive, a video that I'd shot, and it just all started to come together. So just like you were saying, there was a feeling to it, That's all I wanted to communicate with people, was a feeling to it, and because I think music and visual stuff, it's just such a great opportunity to communicate with and connect with people at so many levels, subtly and obviously, and all the ways in between, and just playing with all of that. I mean, that is a fantastic palette and canvas for anybody to work with, and just playing with all of that and being playful with that and discovering my style and just enjoying that journey has got so much juice in it for me. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm just sitting in silence. I'm like, yep.
Well, if people get just some of that juice, coming across in the movie, and they connect with that, then that's job done. That's, what else do I need to do?
Yeah, nothing.
But so often, I think, coming back to the Ridley Scott phenomenon, so often people want to be, they want to produce something else. Like, I looked at your lovely animation at the start of your podcast. I go, I'd love to have something like that. How could I do something? But yet, and I don't. Yet at the moment, I'm not technically capable of it. But actually, I have this C word, collaboration, and that's another opportunity to kind of play with folk. What could we do together? That's an interesting idea. Because you think about a band, right? A rock band. Oftentimes, I love Coldplay, and if you break down their music, it's each person has a very, very simple part to play, but together, put those pieces together, and you end up with something massive. So that's one of the things I'm looking for I'm excited about on my journey, is that, like with this freestyling guy, that was an opportunity to collaborate with somebody, and it really worked out. It's working out really well. So it's not just a journey for me, it's a journey for us. and that feels really good too.
Yeah. So further two things. First of all, the animation that Julian is talking about was made by the excellent Matt Bajaya, who's just like a force of creativity, because he's like, yeah, I just made that like it's nothing, like it's just, and he had it rendered. It's really cool. But on the second thing, like, I was wondering what kind of feeling came up for you when you watched that thing, when you watched this bomb go bang.
It's funny because I go to the movies now in a totally different way. You know, now I'm looking at it as a filmmaker myself, albeit with very limited resources compared to what Hollywood has. I look at those movies and I can just see all kinds of things in them, and I go, that is totally cool. You know, I can do something like that, or not, or I can just use it as a way of, uncovering my own creativity. There's a couple of great ones there. I'm just reminded of, I'm going with my son to see a band called the Foo Fighters in a couple of weeks' time, the end of their UK tour. And there's a track they do called Monkey Wrench, and in it, the most powerful thing, for me anyway, is a pause. You know, the music just pauses for a beat, a long beat, and then starts again at full driving rock, rhythm. And that pause is so powerful, and I'm like, oh, pauses. How can I use? There's something I can do with a pause, And so things like that jump out at me, and I just see that as an opportunity. Now that doesn't mean I go rushing back to my computer system and start to put together an example of that. Sometimes I have a play with it, but I think it's just all, I'm just sucking it all in, and it's just part of what's taking me to the next level. So every time when I see your bomb exploding, I kind of go, there's something there. There's an opportunity. There's the next level. I can see the next level.
Yeah.
So I'm loving, all of you creative people that are listening to this. One of the things I just want to say is that, you were just talking about it. People take for granted. They kind of don't give themselves the credit for what they already have achieved, or what's right at their fingertips right now, their ability to create right now. And that is a supreme gift. I mean, it's a great talent. It's and what I've been working through, what I'm talking about a lot here, is two things really. Whenever you, if you want to play an instrument, you have to learn to play it first thing. And a lot of people that will be listening to this are very, very good players already, and they're very proficient at putting their hands on the keys and blowing into the instrument and making it sound good. Because beyond that, you get to express yourself, and that is fantastic. That's the real juice of it for me. You were talking about there's a feeling that comes through in the movie, and that's where, I listened to a guy who's doing a doctorate in music, and he can just pick up an instrument and really express himself, and wow, the joy of that, the talent that's coming through is such a gift to everybody else around you and to the people doing it, that I'm just in awe in a way to be doing this with you, and talking to this bunch of people, because there's such a talent, such a lot of gold here to share with the world. So beautiful.
That's what I love about talking to you in this moment, is that you have just you're like a little kid who's just gone into it and created it, and you're standing in front of this field of possibilities, and you're like, this is so cool. And every artist has had that, and still maybe has it. And I think every artist should live in that feeling, or in that just like, these possibilities are endless. It doesn't
totally.
Yeah.
Be more childlike. You know, when you're an adult, you start to analyze stuff and judge it and criticize it and so on. But when you kind of like a young kid and you're going, you've never ridden a bicycle before, and you see a bicycle for the first time, and you kind of go, that is amazing.
That's true.
If just spend a little bit more time seeing life like that, life changes completely. Life changes. And for me, so coming back to what I was saying, you know, there's one part which is like playing the instrument, and the other part is, once you can play the instrument, you can express yourself, and that to me is uncovering a creativity that I never really knew I had. I think a lot of us as adults don't give ourselves the credit for the fact that everybody has creativity built in. You know, from the word go, it's built into your functionality as a human being. You, in fact, that's what you're here to do: create stuff. You know, because that makes the world go round. You know, that's how we create a thriving, vibrant world. And so it's our gift. And if you don't create, then you're just missing the God-given, if you want to call it, that opportunity. It's like right there at your fingertips. Everybody has it. And for me personally, that's been quite a long process of realizing that, actually, I never thought, you know, I used to think of myself as creative, but now it's like, no, I do have a creative side, and I can let that open up that door more and more, and I'm never disappointed. You know, there's always more.
So part of me is like you're in a ridiculously good space right now. You're just very aware of how things work, and you're able to relax into this, and then...
No, you should have seen me last night.
Yeah, it's true. That's a very good point. And
sometimes stuff just doesn't go right. I mean, I remember producing one of my cutting room floor edits, and it just... I was like so adamant that it had to be finished, and it had to be good, and it had to be... But whatever I tried doing with it, I just couldn't get to a place where I was satisfied with it. And that's kind of interesting too, because there's a kind of, in a way, not being too attached to it. It's like, okay, so that didn't work out, but you know why that didn't work out, and now you can take that forward to the next piece, and it's built in now. You know, that learning is built in. It's like, you can't edit that shot with that shot.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
For me anyway. For me, the way that I look at it. And so I'm actually satisfied with the fact that that movie sits on the cutting room floor. And the other really interesting thing that comes out of that is quite often, for me, it's not the footage that I went for that is exciting. It's the other bits of footage that I happen to capture along the way. Sometimes there's something at the start of a shot or an end of a shot that I look at as I'm, importing it and so on. And I go, that's really cool, And then I don't know at that stage how to use that, and then but I give myself some space and it comes. So yeah, I love them. That again is about the unknown. Always surprise you. Stuff comes out of the blue, like a mistake can be perfect sometimes.
Yeah.
So at the time I could be really frustrated and going, this isn't working out how I want it to, But if I'm open to the fact that sometimes in the mistakes there's real nuggets of gold, in whichever way that works, then that actually ends up feeling good. So now I've reached a stage where when I get to one of those frustrating points, I go, okay, this means that something better's coming. you know, and I can step back from it a bit and go, all right, that means I'm getting close to being at the next level, which is great. It's on its way.
Would you? I'm just curious what you think about this. Would it be helpful to discuss a little bit how the mind works? Do you think that would help people, or do you think it would be better to continue this exploration on the creative process itself? Because artists out there are not going to know. They have like like somebody who's listening to this isn't going to have a clue how to be more of a kid, because he can't do that. But you can, but you don't know how.
I think we've been talking about it all along, actually, Henk, and that for me, just like our inbuilt creativity, we have an inbuilt guidance system, and it's our feelings, and so a lot of people, back to the difference between being an adult and being a child, is a lot of people, as one of my good friends said, their elevator stops a floor too high. They're living in their head a lot. They're thinking about stuff and analysing it and so on. And if their elevator stopped a floor lower, in their heart, in their feeling of what they're doing, then that's quite an interesting opportunity. That's where the juice is. And I think a lot of times what you're alluding to is that people are they get a feeling about what they're doing, like if something's wrong, and then they try and analyse that. So they've gone that floor too high, yeah. But if they just go back down to that, just feel it and follow a good feeling. Give yourself a bit of space to get into a good feeling with what you're doing, and then just follow that. Do what feels right. And usually, what happens if you go wrong after that is you've just naturally slipped back up into that thinking about it, and you've got back to where I was talking about a minute ago, which is like, no, it has to be this way, and that's usually the sign to go, no, that's you think you're coming at this from the wrong place. Now, for me, what I'd spent a lot of time, back to my lift analogy, trying to figure out what that elevator button was. Can I press the button to go to the right, And I couldn't find a reliable. There are different times that the different things would work, and other times they wouldn't work. But the one thing that is reliable is if you give yourself a chance. The more you think about it, the more you're pressing the button, the more you're trying to go to the wrong level. So actually, the thing to do is to not do anything, to give yourself a bit of space, to let that thinking pass. Because if you give up with what your idea of what it should be like, what it ought to be like, what it must be like, if you give up that thinking and just let that pass for a little bit, then usually you get some kind of, actually, do this. And then you try it and you go, yeah, actually that's working for me. And then you start to build on that, and at that point you're following the good feeling again. So for me, that's how we all have an inbuilt guidance system, which is like our feelings. They're telling you, if you're in a good feeling, you're on track, you're on path, you're headed in the right direction. If you're in a bad feeling, all they're telling you is you're just pointed in the wrong direction right now. Just give yourself a chance to come back to the. It's like an aeroplane, an autopilot or a sat nav. If you don't follow the sat nav's instructions, the first thing it does is it goes, at the first opportunity, turn left. And then if you don't do that turn left and follow it, it does it again, and so it keeps nudging you to head back in the right direction. And so what it's giving you the opportunity to do is to, sometimes we think we know better. How many times have you taken your sat-nav out in your car or your bike or whatever it is and gone, no, I know better than the route than this sat-nav's telling me I'm going to go this way. And the sat-nav's been there going, no, turn left. No, turn left. And you're going, no, I'm not going to turn left. And that's where we get into all this thinking. If we just follow the sat-nav and it puts us back on course and then everything's good.
Yeah, so here's what I love about that, because I know that many artists, and I've witnessed this, even the ones that are having excruciatingly difficult things to deal with, when they open up and when they relax, when they don't press the button, when they follow the feeling, and this is usually when they sit down to create art, they just flow into it, and amazing things come out. Right? Magic happens when somebody is open to the moment and open to new thinking and new ideas, and takes mistake mid-stride and keeps on flowing with it and just picks it up and sees it as a gift. Right? So I know that many artists out there is totally going to recognize that. It's what you would call a flow. You just go and it's just effortless. And because you have done so, it's like you say, after you've done a certain amount of practice with a certain instrument, you can just play it. You can just let your soul come through. And here's the deal, though. I know that many artists at the same time, they struggle with a deadline or another thing. And the feeling of it can be pretty bad. It's like, I need to have this shot finished in 2 hours or I'm toast, or there's consequences. And that's true, you are toast, there is consequences. But the feeling never pointed to that. The feeling pointed to the fact that you're not open to opportunity right now. And that's what I love in your sat-nav metaphor and the lift-down metaphor. It's the feeling doesn't point to the deadline at all. It points you to the fact that you're not looking in the right direction right now. Because it's not helpful. It's not helpful to go, the deadline's coming, I need to do something, it had to be done. That's not helpful. What is helpful is to fall open and to see opportunity. And maybe there might just be an opportunity to totally make that deadline without any effort. Because and artists know this, right? If I was only in the flow right now, I would make this deadline with no problem. But then there's again, they're not in the flow, they're aware they're not in the flow, and they try to get into the flow, and they ask how can I get into the flow? And then there's this horrible feeling, which just points to the fact that, dude, go back, wrong direction. And I wish if an artist would see that, when that happens, what goes on, he might actually go hey, this is interesting. This is because there's opportunity there. A lot of things in life are actually quite easy. They're not hard at all if you're open to new thinking and you're in the flow of it.
There's a thing for me to what you just mentioned there. I get a sense that really great artists and the people that work with them would rather that they produced the work they want to produce than have it on a deadline. Excuse me. They would rather have it, be amazed by it, by the quality of it, by the creativity that comes out of it. They would rather have a fantastic piece of work than have something that's average on a deadline. And I think sometimes that's hard because real artists who are really true to their art know that. They hold out for. I remember a guy that I was doing an engineering course with, and he created a little model thing that went round a slalom track and came back, and it didn't quite make it through the finishing gate, and he struggled. He didn't enter it into the competition we were both in because it wasn't perfect, and he did get it perfect, but not in time for the competition. Now, was it for me at the time? I was like, well, just get it good enough. you'll probably win the competition with what you got. And he's like, no, it has to be right. Now, sometimes it's really important to go with what's right for you, for it to being, especially as you're creating something, and people will see that. That's what they see of you. That's what you're producing for them. They really want your best work. So I think they'll wait for it. They'll. So any thinking you have about must get there in time is, to me, is like, no, far better to have something you're really excited about than compromise it.
Yeah.
Having said that, one of the things I do find is that there is another way of playing it, right? So I don't know if you watch tennis, but tennis people have when you're really in the flow, as you called it, they can serve up a first serve and they'll ace the ball right into the corner where nobody can reply, and that's a perfect, shot. When you're in the flow, you do that. You pick up your tools and you create something, and it's just, you ace it, you slam dunk it straight off the bat. Other times you, like I said earlier, you play with it, it's not quite right, and so on. And there is a way, like a tennis player has a second serve. Second serve is very, very cunningly crafted so that it's going to land inside the line. It's going to be, it'll be returnable, but it means they're in the game, And sometimes as an artist, then it's good. It's okay to be in the game. Produce something that's good enough. But what that also allows you to do is to
That's all right. Yeah, pick it up. I'll edit it out. No problem.
I don't see, people keep calling me. I don't know who the hell they are. And anyway, so if you're playing your second serve, right, what that allows you to do is you stay in the game and you play your way back to the flow. You play out of the struggle and back into what feels good.
Yeah, you keep playing. Yeah, that feels right.
And that, for me, that's why I don't mind stuff ending up on the cutting room floor, because I'm still playing. I'm in the game. Even if I'm not winning those points, I'm the next point could be, I could get that back onto the feeling and get going again. So, and it's back to following the feeling, just giving myself a break and feeling good, getting that childlike feeling back, just knowing that my guidance system works 24/7, just like my creativity is there 24/7, and all I have to do is allow that all to happen.
I think we've reached the perfect point to let this one end. I think that's just. Is there anything else you wanted to say, or just to?
Yeah, I would. Just a request. So I want to go back to this idea of a rock band. I'm sure there are really talented people out there who are creating fantastic music, fantastic visuals. I love this idea of collaboration, and I think it sparks creativity. So if there's anybody out there who would love to talk about doing something together, then Julian@starsofwellbeing.com, email me. Let's talk, because I'd love to come out to play.
I'll add the email address to this post. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I look forward to the possibilities that come along with that. I think that would be really, really exciting.
Yeah, and for the people who don't know, I didn't fully introduce you, but Julian has been very familiar with State of Mind and pretty active in this community. And so I would even say, if anybody wants to talk to him and he feels up, send him a message.
Yeah, no, if you want to talk about the elevator button or your guidance system or any of that kind of stuff, I do that kind of stuff. I talk about that kind of stuff too, and I love to help people, because you've got your gifts, people. Bring them to the world. The world needs them and wants them.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Julian.